after you're hitting the leads, what you need to do and what your next concern needs to be is you need to work with them to help them with closing the leads. What do I mean by that? Guys, I know at the end of the day, it's not your fault. You can't close the leads for them. They didn't pay you to close the leads. You didn't tell them you were going to close the leads. You said you would get them leads. And even if you didn't oversell it, here's what you need to realize. If clients do not close leads, whether it's your fault or theirs, they will blame it on you. They can say whatever they want to say. They will blame it on you. I don't care if you warm transfer them. I don't care if they're 100% exclusive like they should be. I don't care if these are the biggest, fattest jobs, but if they do not close leads, they will blame it on you. What ends up happening is they end up canceling. It's incredible. The best leads in the world, you could send to two people. One person would say they were shit. One person would make millions of dollars from them. Therefore, even though they're not paying you to close deals, and even though your check isn't based on them closing deals, it kind of is. If you want to do this thing big, if you want to do this long term, if you want to grow this thing, you have clients for years and years, they got to close deals. And so that's why when you're doing that live transfer process and they suck on the phone and they're not good with clients and they don't follow up and they suck at selling, that's a problem, because you may get them to sign that 3-month contract, but if they don't close deals, they are not going to stay with you. There will be a shelf life. They will cancel eventually. I don't care if it's now, it'll be at the end of the first contract or the end of the second one. They will cancel and they will blame you. It does not matter. So I'm just giving it to you how it is. So what you need to do is on this call, I like to dig in and I like to figure out the numbers. Okay. This is super, super important to figure out the numbers. And I want to diagnose the problem. So here's the questions that I like to ask. Assuming that we've hit our numbers, like that 12 to 15 that we promised, we didn't overpromise, is I start off and I look at it and I say, okay, Mr. Business Owner, looks like we had 20 calls. So, Mr. Business Owner, here's my question for you. And by the way, if they need to have their receptionist on or their wife or whatever, get them on so they can ask these questions. But Mr. Business Owner, how many of those people, those 20 that called in, how many of them did you actually talk to? And they're going to tell you, and you're going to write that number down. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to start to see really quick where I'm going with this. You're going to send 20 and they're going to tell you, well, and they're, by the way, they don't track shit. So that's a problem. But they're probably going to tell you, well, yeah, we actually talked to 15 of them. Okay. So you talked to 15. What happened with the other 5? What happened with the other 5? And here's where they start fumbling. They're like, well, we don't do that great at tracking, but Jackie, what happened to those other 5? Jackie gets up. Well, we tried to call that one and she didn't answer. So, and they just start piping you full of bullshit. They didn't answer the phone. That's the problem. They didn't answer the phone and then they called once. And don't make them feel stupid, but they get it. You get it. It was on them. Okay. So we just lost 5 of those calls. Boom, right at the top. You need to help them realize that they just lost 5 calls. Then I say, okay, how many of the 15 that you talked to did you actually book an appointment with? And then he goes and he turns to Jackie because he doesn't know what the hell's going on. And Jackie goes, well, we booked 8. We booked 8. And you're like, okay, interesting. What happened to the other 7? Because here's the thing, guys, is if they're calling the website, that means they clicked on the ad or they came in organically. Unless it's a fake call, they are calling for a specific reason. And so the question then becomes, why did you not book 15 out of 15? Jackie, because you should have. So then you start realizing, okay, we started at 20. They didn't answer the phone, so we lost 5. And then Jackie just ain't that good at scheduling because she's asking yes, no questions. And she's just saying, hey, Mark, this is Jackie with, and they're using the wrong name of the business. And the customer thinks they're calling your website. They're using their name because they haven't been trained and they don't know what the hell's going on. They don't know how to use the internet. And before you know it, Jackie's on there saying, hey, Mark, did you want us to come give you an estimate? And those of you that have the clients that charge for the estimate,
hey, do you want an estimate that costs $80?
you can see where I'm going with this. So guys, we started at 20 and now after 2 questions, we realized they only talked to 8. Okay, you did your job, but we're at 8 now. And we keep going. So Jackie, how many of the people that you booked an appointment with, so you booked an appointment with 8, am I right? Yeah, okay. How many of those people did you actually give an estimate to? Did you actually get to the home? We gave 4 estimates, was it? 4 or 5? Yeah, we gave 5 estimates. Okay. Cool. Now here's my next question, Jackie. Since you gave the estimate, have you called any of them? Well, no, like we usually just give the estimate and we let them call us. Okay. And then they're going to say, well, we gave 5 estimates. And they're going to say, okay, of those 5, how many did you close? And they're like, well, we closed 3 of the 5, but one of them actually canceled. So then I say, okay, so you closed 3 of the 5. Why did you have a cancel? Well, they just wanted the service before we could get out there. So literally we started at 20 leads. You did your job. You gave them 20 leads, but they closed 2 jobs. And that's probably very aggressive. That's probably way more than they really closed. And they're probably at 0. And they, on their end, before your call, are thinking that this is a bullshit service. They're thinking that it doesn't work. They're thinking that these calls are fake. They're thinking that this and that. The point is, on these calls, you have got to dig into what's happening. Because even though you aren't getting paid and it's not your responsibility to close these jobs, if you do not help them see these numbers and see how ridiculous this is, they will cancel. And they will either cancel early and they'll try and say, hey, we're not getting leads, blah, blah, blah. And they'll just go MIA and cancel their credit card or back charge or whatever. Or at the end of the contract, no way, Jose, are they going to go and continue with you. And guys, as we said, we're trying to build empires here. We're not trying to get somebody for 3 months, make a couple bucks and have to do the whole process again, especially those of you that have salespeople now and you got to pay the commission again and you got to go through the process again. You got to do the free leads again and the whole deal, right? So you can see how this could become a problem. But the issue is, first of all, you're not calling the clients and even going over these things. And second of all, you're just believing the clients when they're telling you that 3 people answered or that they only closed 2 leads. And so I've seen a couple of comments, people like, well, I'm sending all these leads, but they're only closing 1% or 5% or whatever. The question is, how many estimates are they actually giving? Because they should be giving an estimate to a high percentage of the leads you send. And if they're not, there's an issue. They're either not answering the phone, they're answering the phone like a dumbass, they're putting buying pressure on the clients. Sorry, sir, we have a minimum charge of $2,000. So unless the project's over $2,000, we're not doing it. And we require a down payment, right? Like, this is the kind of shit you guys should figure out when you're doing the actual setup. You need to ask these questions and you need to help the customer diagnose the issue. Because now what's happened is the business owner and Jackie, now they can't just go ahead and blame you for the leads. Now, that doesn't mean, even though you've shown them that it's their fault, that still doesn't keep them from canceling. Now we got to figure out, okay, how can we improve? And now we got to start getting into like, this isn't the blame game. You guys got into this business. You guys sold these clients, help them. Nobody wants to make money when you're at your client's expense. It feels freaking good when your client's making money and you're making money and everything's ripping and they're expanding and you're expanding. And that's what's cool. So I'm not saying that like this is the blame game. You get in and you start blaming the clients. No, the ultimate goal is that they make money, you make money, and you work together for 10 years. That's the goal. So I'm only telling you that you need to do this first because you need to help them diagnose the problem and you need to figure out where you can help them. So for example, if you're sending them 20 leads and they're only getting a hold of 8, there is an issue with them answering the phone. I can guarantee they're not answering it. They're answering it weird. Those are probably the main 2 things, okay? Because if they're answering it and people aren't booking, they're answering it weird. And you need to do a little bit of a training. Okay? You need to tell them, hey, here's some best practices. Walk them through. Hey, here's what the customer sees. The customer went to Bentonville Concrete. They searched it. They went to our website, it says Bentonville Concrete. They pushed this button and it calls you, Jackie. And I know your company is called Jackie's Concrete, but if you answer the phone and say, hey, this is Jackie with Jackie's Concrete, they're gonna be confused, okay? And now Jackie's like, oh my gosh. You guys need to dig in and you need to figure out where the issue is. If they're booking a lot of estimates, but they're not closing, we know where the problem is. And we just start digging in and we start offering. You guys want to know like, oh, how do I add value? How do I add value? How do I over deliver? This is how, because if they don't close, they will cancel. There's a difference between canceling to cancel. And then there's, well, we canceled because it just wasn't good. Don't let them off that easy. So guys, on that call, we need to dig in. We need to find those things. And you know what? The most disheartening part is most of the time, they have no idea. And after month 1, when you go over these numbers, you want to know what the takeaway is for these guys is you usually say, hey, next month, let's try keeping track. Okay. Because usually they have no idea. And so how are you going to improve? And tell them, Jackie, how are we going to improve if we don't know what the numbers are? And you got to dig in on this stuff. And this is why you got to do these calls.